Captain Alina Cross crouched behind a jagged outcrop of black rock, her breath coming in sharp, controlled bursts. The air on Zephyria was thin, tinged with a metallic taste that made her throat scratchy. She could hear the distant hum of alien patrols moving across the cratered landscape, their mechanical walkers clanking softly in the fading light. For 3 days, Alina had been alone, separated from her unit during the ambush that had torn their mission apart. She pressed herself lower, eyes scanning the horizon. The moon's twin suns were setting, painting the barren surface in shades of red and orange. Alina's mind raced, not with fear but with determination. She had faced impossible odds before, but this, being alone behind enemy lines with the life of her mother hanging in the balance, was different. Her mother, Dr. Mara Cross, had been captured years ago during a failed peace mission, and the thought of her suffering in the alien archives fueled Alina's resolve. Every step she took had to be precise. The Virelians were meticulous hunters, and their patrols moved in predictable patterns, something Alina had learned in hours of observation. She had adapted her own tactics, using the natural terrain to her advantage. Small, calculated movements allowed her to remain unseen. A misstep could mean capture, or worse. Alina crouched beside a small fissure in the ground, peering through her scope at the patrol ahead. 2 Virelian guards, tall and angular in their biometal armor, walked side by side, communicating in clicks and melodic tones that were foreign to her ears. Their sensors scanned the terrain, but Alina knew they relied heavily on patterns and repetition. She waited, counting their steps, memorizing their timing. When they passed her hiding spot, she darted forward, low to the ground, and slipped into the shadows of a jagged cliff face. Hours passed like this. Alina moved carefully from cover to cover, following an encrypted signal she had intercepted on a stolen Virelian device. It was weak, almost imperceptible, but it pulsed with the unmistakable signature of her mother's personal locator. Every time she paused to check it, a wave of emotion threatened to overwhelm her. She swallowed hard, forcing herself to focus. Her mother had survived this long, and Alina would do whatever it took to bring her home. As night fell, Zephyria transformed. The twin moons cast pale silver light across the craters, and strange bioluminescent plants began to glow faintly along the ridges. Alina's human senses, honed for survival, picked up every whisper of movement. In the distance, a small group of Virelian drones passed, their lights sweeping across the ground like searching eyes. Alina flattened herself against the rock and held her breath. The minutes felt like hours, but eventually, the drones moved on. She exhaled silently and pressed forward. By the second day, Alina had reached the foothills of the Virelian capital. Towering spires of black and silver pierced the sky, glowing faintly with alien energy. The sheer scale of the city was intimidating, even for someone trained for war. But Alina knew she had no choice. The encrypted signal indicated that her mother was being held within the royal archives, deep inside the heart of the city. Every instinct screamed danger, but her human determination burned brighter than any fear. Alina spent the next several hours observing the city's perimeter. Patrols moved with mechanical precision, and energy barriers marked no-go zones. She noted every shift in patrol patterns, every gap in surveillance. When night fell again, she made her move, slipping through the shadows like a wraith. Her training allowed her to scale walls and bypass security nodes, but the alien technology was unlike anything she had faced before. Each step forward was a test of wit and courage. Inside the city, Alina discovered signs of human prisoners, remnants of rations, worn blankets, and small markings etched into walls. Her heart ached at the sight, knowing that her mother had endured years of captivity in such conditions. The thought made her move faster, more carefully, but also with a renewed urgency. She was no longer just a soldier on a mission. She was a daughter on a quest to reclaim her family. As she reached the outer edge of the archives, Alina paused. The structure was a fortress of living metal, pulsating softly like a heartbeat. She could hear faint clicks and hums, sensors that responded to motion, temperature, and even sound. She scanned the walls, searching for a weakness. Hours of observation had paid off. She spotted a narrow maintenance shaft running along the side, almost invisible to anyone not looking closely. With a deep breath, she slid into the shaft, moving silently, inch by inch. Inside, the corridors were cold and sterile. The walls glimmered faintly under alien lighting, and a soft hum filled the air. Alina's eyes adjusted quickly, taking in every detail. She knew the Virelians relied on logic and order, and human unpredictability could be a weapon. She left small distractions in her wake, loose panels, faint echoes, shifting shadows, enough to confuse sensors and patrols without raising alarms. After what felt like an eternity, she reached the inner level of the archives. Security here was tighter, but Alina's human creativity shone. Using stolen alien tech, she created a minor power surge, disabling a cluster of sensors long enough to slip past. She moved swiftly, her heart pounding with hope and fear. Every corridor brought her closer to her mother, and every step reminded her of the years of separation. Finally, she reached a large chamber deep within the archives. Inside, rows of containment units glowed faintly. Alina's eyes scanned the room, and then she saw her. Dr. Mara Cross, emaciated but unmistakably alive, was sitting in one of the units. The sight of her mother brought tears to Alina's eyes, but she forced herself to stay focused. The Virelian guards had left the chamber temporarily, but they would return soon. Alina, Mara's voice was weak, trembling with disbelief. "I'm here, Mom. I'm back," Alina whispered, her voice steady but filled with emotion. She moved quickly, disabling the containment unit and helping her mother to her feet. The reunion was brief but intense. They had no time to dwell on the years lost. The city outside waited, filled with enemies and dangers, but for a moment, mother and daughter held on to each other, drawing strength from their bond. As they began their escape, Alina realized that this was only the beginning. The Virelians would not let a human slip away so easily. But she also knew something important. Humans had a gift that no alien army could predict. Their ingenuity, adaptability, and unyielding spirit could turn even the deadliest situation in their favor. She would need every bit of it to survive the night and bring her mother safely back. The two moved silently through the shadows, avoiding patrols and sensors. Alina's mind raced, planning each step with precision. She left false traces and distractions behind, buying them time as they navigated the labyrinthine corridors. Mara, though weak, followed faithfully, her trust in her daughter unshakable. Hours later, they reached the outer perimeter of the city. The twin moons had risen high, casting silver light across the landscape. Alina could see the jagged rocks where she had first observed the patrols, the familiar terrain that had become a lifeline over the past days. She led her mother forward, slipping past the final barriers with a combination of human cunning and daring. When they finally reached the open crater outside the city, Alina paused to catch her breath. The stars stretched endlessly above them, and for the first time in years, she allowed herself a small smile. They were not free yet, but they had survived the most dangerous part of their journey. Human perseverance had won, at least for now. Alina looked at her mother, who rested heavily against her shoulder. "We're going home," she said softly, more to herself than to Mara. Her words were a promise, a declaration of the human spirit that no alien force could suppress. In that moment, under the pale light of Zephyria's moons, Alina understood something profound. Humans were never meant to be underestimated. Their courage, their loyalty, and their ingenuity could defy even the most advanced enemies. As they moved into the darkness, the distant hum of the alien city faded behind them. The journey ahead would be perilous, filled with challenges they could not yet foresee. But for now, Alina allowed herself to savor the victory. She had found her mother, and together they had taken the first step toward freedom. And somewhere deep within the heart of the Vireland capital, sensors that had once sought to trap them now read only silence, a subtle testament to the unpredictability and brilliance of the human mind. The night on Zephyria was colder than Alina remembered. The twin moons hung low in the sky, casting silver light across the jagged craters. Alina moved quickly, her mother clinging to her arm for support, but she kept her pace steady. Each shadow, each flicker of movement in the distance, was a potential threat. Patrols might still be searching for them, and the city's sensors were never truly off. Mara leaned heavily on her daughter as they navigated the rough terrain. I thought you would never come," she said softly, her voice shaking. "You don't get to think that, Mom," Alina replied, squeezing her hand. "We're here now, that's all that matters." Even though she spoke with confidence, Alina's mind raced. They were far from safe. The encrypted signal that had guided her to her mother still pulsed faintly in her pocket, pointing to a secondary extraction point beyond the craters. It was the fastest route back to human-controlled space, but it was also the most dangerous. They moved silently, using the rocks and natural formations as cover. Alina had learned to read the subtle signs of Zephyria's terrain, the way shadows shifted with the twin moons, the faint hum of alien energy currents, the occasional glint of patrol sensors scanning for movement. Her human intuition guided her as much as her training. Hours passed. The terrain grew more difficult, and Mara began to stumble. Alina supported her mother, keeping her moving even when exhaustion threatened to stop them. She could feel the weight of responsibility pressing on her chest, not just to survive, but to protect the person who had given her life, who had nurtured her through childhood and encouraged her dreams. Ahead, the hills opened into a wide valley. Alina crouched behind a rock, scanning the area. Her breath caught as she spotted the first signs of alien activity beyond the valley, a small patrol of Vireland scouts moving with mechanical precision. The patrol's sensors flickered in the darkness, scanning for heat signatures. A wrong step would mean discovery. Alina thought fast. She had learned that the Virelands were creatures of logic, creatures who followed rules and patterns. Their technology was advanced but predictable. If she could find the gaps in their routines, she could slip past them. She spotted a narrow ravine leading across the patrol's path. It was risky, but it offered cover and a way to stay unseen. "Mom, follow me closely," she whispered. "Don't make a sound no matter what happens." They moved slowly inch by inch across the rocky terrain. The patrol passed just a few meters away, their sensors sweeping like mechanical eyes. Alina's heart pounded, but she remained calm, guiding her mother with quiet reassurance. Once they were safely past, they ducked into a shadowed crevice, breathing heavily but relieved. The valley stretched out before them, and beyond it, the distant glow of a human extraction point shimmered faintly, a beacon of hope. Alina felt a surge of determination. They were closer to safety than they had been in years. She adjusted the stolen alien device in her pocket, tracking the faint signal that would lead them to the waiting human ship. As they pressed forward, the sound of movement reached them again. A low hum, growing steadily louder, filled the valley. Alina froze. She recognized the sound, Vireland drones, flying silently but scanning the area with precision. They were not looking for prisoners, they were hunting. Alina's mind raced, calculating every option. She needed to act fast. She spotted a cluster of large boulders nearby, partially hidden by the moonlight. "Under those rocks," she whispered. "Move quickly." Mara obeyed, though her movements were slow and uncertain. Alina helped her mother to the shadowed rocks, and they flattened themselves against the ground as the drones passed overhead. The drones lingered longer than expected, their sensors sweeping back and forth. Alina held her breath, counting every second. The tension was unbearable, but she knew that humans had a gift that no machine could predict: ingenuity. She carefully reached for a small device she had fashioned from alien scraps, a noise generator designed to create a false heat signature. She activated it, placing it on the far side of the valley. The drones detected the signal immediately and veered away, giving Alina and Mara a precious window to escape. They ran as fast as they could, guided by the faint glow of the extraction point. The moonlight reflected off the jagged rocks, making the terrain treacherous, but Alina's determination kept her moving. Every step brought them closer to safety, and every step reminded her of the years lost and the battles fought to reach this moment. As dawn approached, the valley opened into a plateau. From there, the human extraction point was visible, a small landing platform perched on a cliff edge with a single ship waiting. Alina's heart leapt. They were almost there, but the journey was not yet over. A sudden alert rang out from the device she carried, a faint signal indicating multiple Virelian reinforcements closing in. Alina cursed under her breath. They had been detected. She grabbed her mother's hand. "We have to move faster. They're coming." Mara nodded weakly, trusting her daughter completely. Together, they sprinted across the plateau, the alien reinforcements growing louder behind them. Alina's mind raced, searching for a solution. There was a narrow ledge along the cliff, just wide enough to cross safely, but one misstep could be fatal. She assessed the risk and decided it was their only option. "Follow me exactly," she instructed. "Step where I step." Carefully, they moved along the ledge, Alina leading and Mara following. The wind howled around them and the drop below was dizzying, but they pressed on, step by step. Behind them, the alien reinforcements arrived at the edge of the plateau, scanning and shouting in their melodic clicks. They were too late. The humans were already halfway across the cliff. Finally, they reached the end of the ledge, where the landing platform awaited. The human ship's engines roared to life as Alina signaled them. With a final burst of energy, she helped her mother onto the platform, then leaped aboard herself. The ramp closed, sealing them inside the safety of the ship. As the ship lifted off, Alina sank into a seat, exhausted but triumphant. Mara leaned against her, tears in her eyes. "I can't believe you came for me," she whispered. "I promised," Alina said simply. "I never leave anyone behind." The pilot, a grizzled human veteran, glanced at them. "Good timing, Captain. You're lucky to get out of there alive. Those aliens don't give up easily." Alina nodded, her mind still racing. They had escaped for now, but the journey was far from over. The Virelians would not forget this. She had defied their expectations, shown them that humans were unpredictable, resourceful, and fearless. That was the human advantage, something no alien army could fully anticipate. As the ship left Zephyria's orbit, Alina and her mother shared a quiet moment. The galaxy stretched before them, vast and filled with dangers, but also with possibilities. Humans had survived the impossible before, and they would do it again. Alina's mind turned to the Virelian capital, still glowing faintly in the distance. She had seen the Queen's city, had felt the weight of its technology and its strict order. But she also knew that courage, intelligence, and loyalty, human traits, could change everything. Her mother's safe return was the first step. The next step would be confronting the larger conflict, showing the galaxy what humans were truly capable of. Mara looked at her daughter, pride and relief shining in her eyes. You are extraordinary," she said softly. Alina smiled, a tired but genuine smile. "No, Mom, humans are extraordinary. I'm just doing what we do best, never giving up, never backing down, and always protecting those we love." The ship sailed into the darkness of space, leaving Zephyria behind. Yet even as the stars stretched out before them, Alina's thoughts remained on the challenges ahead. The Virelians were clever, relentless, and powerful, but humans had something they could not predict: resilience, creativity, and the unbreakable bonds that tied them together. Hours passed in quiet reflection. The ship's engines hummed steadily, and the stars twinkled beyond the viewport. Alina and her mother sat side by side, sharing a rare moment of peace. But Alina knew that the moment would not last. The galaxy was vast, full of dangers yet unseen, and the Viorlians would soon learn that humans were more than mere soldiers. They were survivors, thinkers, and innovators. Suddenly, the ship's sensors beeped, drawing Alina's attention. She frowned at the display. There was a faint signal ahead, another patrol, possibly a scout sent to follow them. Her pulse quickened. She had thought they were safe, but danger was never far behind. "Mom, stay calm," Alina said, already moving to the controls. "We might have to shake them off." Humans are good at that too. Using the ship's stealth functions and a combination of evasive maneuvers, Alina guided the vessel through asteroid fields and debris, evading the pursuing Viorlians. Each twist and turn tested her skill and courage, but she remained focused, determined to protect her mother at all costs. By the time they reached a safe human outpost on the edge of controlled space, the first light of a distant sun was breaking over the horizon. Alina guided the ship down onto the landing pad, feeling a sense of triumph and relief. They had survived Zephyria, evaded capture, and reunited against impossible odds. As they disembarked, other humans rushed forward, greeting them with astonished looks. Alina's mother was supported by her, leaning on her for strength. Soldiers and civilians alike whispered stories of the human who had slipped past the Viorlian city, defied the enemy, and brought her mother home. Alina allowed herself a moment to breathe. The journey was not over, but she had proven something vital. Humans were never to be underestimated. Their courage, ingenuity, and loyalty could triumph against even the most advanced and ruthless enemies. And somewhere, far away in the Viorlian capital, sensors had recorded only one message. A human had escaped. A mother had been reunited with her daughter, and the queen, who ruled with logic and precision, would soon learn that humans were a force unlike any other. For now, mother and daughter were safe. For now, humanity had won a small but significant victory. But Alina knew that the next chapter of this story would demand everything humans had to offer: strength, strategy, and the unbreakable spirit that had carried them through centuries of challenges. And with her mother at her side, Alina was ready for whatever came next. The human outpost was quiet, perched on the edge of a green-tinted planet where the air shimmered with soft currents of energy. Captain Alina Cross and her mother, Dr. Mara Cross, had been safely received by the humans, but Alina's mind was far from at ease. Zephyria and its Viorlian capital were still out there, still alive in her thoughts, and the queen who ruled with cold logic would not forget what had happened. Alina studied the star charts on the table before her. The Viorlians were powerful, their fleets massive and precise. Any human action against them needed careful planning, intelligence, and strategy. But humans had something the Viorlians could never fully calculate: creativity, unpredictability, and the ability to turn even small advantages into decisive victories. Alina's mind worked through scenarios, planning not just a rescue, but a demonstration of human capability that could reshape perceptions across the galaxy. Her mother, though recovering from years of captivity, watched her with quiet admiration. "You're thinking ahead again," Mara said softly. "Even after everything, you can't rest." Alina smiled faintly, her eyes still fixed on the charts. "Rest isn't an option yet. Not until the Queen understands humans are different. We don't just survive. We adapt, we learn, and we act in ways no one expects." For the next few days, the outpost became a hive of preparation. Alina trained with the human soldiers, sharing insights from her infiltration of the Viorlian capital. She explained how the aliens relied on strict rules and patterns, how their defenses were brilliant but rigid, and how human unpredictability could turn their strength into weakness. Soldiers listened intently, eager to learn how one human could outmaneuver an entire alien system. The opportunity soon arrived. The Virelian queen, curious and perhaps unsettled by the reports of Alina's actions, sent a delegation to the human outpost. They did not come to attack, they came to observe. The queen's messengers were precise, unyielding, and cold, yet there was something almost human in their curiosity. Alina met them at the landing pad, flanked by her mother and the soldiers. The Virelians were taller than most humans, their armor gleaming with a strange, living metal that shifted with their movements. Their eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the soft energy of the planet, and their expressions were unreadable. "I am Captain Alina Cross," she said clearly, standing straight and unflinching. "You came to observe, so you will observe the truth. Humans are not creatures to be underestimated. We are capable of courage, loyalty, and ingenuity beyond what you may calculate." The Virelian delegates remained silent, their clicks and tones filling the quiet space between words. One of them stepped forward, handing Alina a device that translated their communication into human language. "Your actions have been noted. We have observed anomalies in your behavior. Explain." Alina's mind worked quickly. She knew the queen valued reason and evidence, not emotion. "The anomalies you note are not mistakes. They are human strengths. We adapt, improvise, and act in ways your systems cannot predict. That is why I survived Zephyria, why I rescued my mother, and why we continue to live. Predictable systems fail against unpredictability." The delegation paused, processing her words. It was clear that their culture did not fully comprehend the concept of human intuition and emotional intelligence as a tactical advantage. Alina pressed on, sensing that the moment was critical. "Your queen governs by logic and order," she continued. "That is admirable but incomplete. Humans act with purpose and care, not only for ourselves but for those we protect. Our loyalty and courage are forces that cannot be contained, quantified, or predicted. And now I ask you to carry this message back. Humans are not enemies to be underestimated, and our strength is not only in weapons but in spirit." The Virelians made a series of clicks, almost like a discussion. Then, without warning, the delegation's lead officer bowed slightly and gestured for Alina and her mother to follow. The humans exchanged surprised glances, but Alina sensed opportunity. They were being invited to the queen's presence, not as prisoners, but as representatives. The journey to the queen's palace was unlike anything Alina had seen before. Towers of living metal rose into the sky, intertwining with energy channels that pulsed softly. The city seemed alive, almost breathing, and yet every movement was precise, efficient, and deliberate. Alina walked with her mother beside her, observing carefully, noting every pattern, every guard rotation, every system she might have once exploited. Finally, they arrived at the queen's chamber, a vast hall of translucent energy walls and floating platforms. The queen sat atop a throne that seemed to be part of the structure itself, her form elegant and commanding. The glow from her body illuminated the room, reflecting off the walls in shifting patterns. Alina felt a mix of awe and determination. The queen's voice resonated in the chamber, translated directly into human speech by the device. "You are the human who defied the capital and retrieved your mother. Explain why you should not be punished for such audacity." Alina met the queen's gaze, unflinching. "Punish me. I do not fear you, nor do I seek conflict. I am here to show you that humans are more than fighters. We are problem solvers, thinkers, and loyal beings. My actions were not reckless. They were calculated, courageous, and guided by the need to protect life. That is what humans value. That is what makes us strong." The queen tilted her head slightly, as if weighing Alina's words. Her expression was difficult to read, but there was a subtle shift, a recognition of something beyond mere logic. Alina pressed on, sensing that this was the moment to demonstrate the true human advantage. I acted not for glory, nor for revenge, but for love and loyalty, Alina said, her voice steady. Humans act with purpose, even when outcomes are uncertain. That is our strength. We do not simply follow rules. We create solutions, adapt to challenges, and protect what we hold dear. My mother's life is a testament to that spirit, and now I ask you to recognize it. A long silence followed. The queen's glowing eyes studied Alina, then Mara, who stood quietly beside her daughter. Then, to the astonishment of all present, the queen lowered her gaze, and a single tear formed, glimmering as it traced down her cheek. The delegates murmured softly, unaccustomed to such displays of emotion. "You speak of loyalty, courage, and ingenuity," the queen said finally, her voice softer than before. "These are qualities I have observed but never understood fully in humans. You have not only rescued your mother, but you have demonstrated the power of your kind in ways that words cannot capture." Alina felt her chest tighten. She had expected caution, negotiation, or threats, but not this. The queen was moved, not by force or intimidation, but by the demonstration of human spirit. It was a moment Alina had not dared to hope for. "Your actions will be remembered," the queen continued, "and perhaps they will inspire reconsideration of how our peoples interact. Humans are more than tools of war. They are beings of intellect, empathy, and courage. I see now that to underestimate you would be a grave error." Mara stepped forward, tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she said simply, "for seeing what so few could recognize. Humans are not perfect, but our bonds and our courage are real. We act because we care, and that is something even the strongest systems cannot predict." The queen inclined her head, a gesture of respect rather than submission. "You have taught me something today. Perhaps there is more to leadership than logic alone. Perhaps there is value in observing, in learning, in respecting those who act with heart and mind in equal measure." Alina realized then that this was more than a personal victory. It was a triumph of human spirit across the galaxy. The queen's acknowledgement meant that humans would no longer be dismissed as merely another species to conquer or calculate. Their ingenuity, courage, and loyalty had earned recognition at the highest level of an alien empire. When they left the chamber, the delegates bowed once more, their earlier suspicion replaced with cautious respect. Alina and Mara returned to the human ship, their hearts light despite the long journey still ahead. Humans had proven themselves, not through overwhelming force but through cleverness, bravery, and the bonds that tied them together. As the ship lifted off, Alina looked at her mother. "We did it," she said softly. "Not just for us, but for everyone who thought humans were weak, predictable, or replaceable." Mara smiled, her eyes shining with pride. "You've shown them what it means to be human. You've shown me, too." Alina gazed out the viewport at the stars stretching endlessly before them. The galaxy was vast, full of challenges yet unseen, but humans had something no alien army could replicate: resilience, ingenuity, and the unbreakable spirit that came from protecting what they loved. The Virean queen had seen it firsthand, and now the ripples of that realization would spread. Humans were no longer just survivors. They were leaders, innovators, and a force to be respected across the stars. As the ship sailed into the unknown, Alina and her mother sat side by side, ready for whatever came next. The galaxy awaited, full of possibilities and dangers, but Alina knew one thing with certainty: wherever humans went, they would leave a mark. And somewhere far beyond the edge of known space, the Virean queen pondered the lesson of the human soldier who had rescued her mother. A tear still glimmered in her eye, a quiet acknowledgement that the unpredictable, courageous, and loyal spirit of humanity could not be ignored. Alina crossed her arms over her chest, a small, tired smile on her face. The universe was wide and full of challenges, but humans had survived the impossible before. And as long as they stayed true to their courage and ingenuity, there was nothing they could not overcome. The stars outside stretched endlessly, but for the first time in a long while, Elena felt something she had not felt in years. Hope. Real, unshakable hope for humanity, for her mother, and for the adventures that lay ahead. And so, mother and daughter sailed into the galaxy together, leaving behind fear, leaving behind doubt, and carrying forward the unbreakable spirit that defined all humans. A spirit that even the greatest alien empires would come to respect, one victory, and one act of courage at a time.